Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.
Our friend Tom Dyson at the Palm Beach Letter is giving away free copies of a really cool report he put together called How to Protect Yourself from America's New Secret Police. Inside, you'll learn all sorts of simple, everyday tricks you can use to make yourself a little less visible and vulnerable to scammers, hackers, and even the federal government. For instance, inside Tom's report, you'll learn which free internet email service never to use. This company doesn't care if your account gets hacked or not, or things the government must tell you if they request your social security number, and how to spot skimmers lying in wait on ATMs and gas pumps, and much, much more. These tricks and secrets are low-hanging fruit ideas. You don't have to invest time or much money into them. Most are free. But by taking some basic measures, you can make your privacy much harder to invade than your neighbors. Tom's report is available for a limited time to listeners who take a trial subscription to his newsletter. Just visit the Financial Survival Network homepage for more information, or go to www.palmbeachletter2.com. That's www.palmbeachletter2.com. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network.com. I'm Kerry Lutz on 1230 WBZT. So, new poll out today. United States middle class ranks number 27 in the world today. Is that by accident or is it by design? Let's hear what Wayne Allyn Root has to say about it. Wayne, how are you?
Hey, Kerry, how are you? And you'll not be surprised to learn I think it's on purpose. This is all happening on purpose. I just wrote a book about it. And by the way, it's the fourth best-selling political hardcover in America for the last 12 months. It's called The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. Fourth best-selling book in America for the last year. And I'm very proud of it. And the whole contention of my book is built around this new poll that just came out. I didn't know about the poll, but my gut instincts were that the middle class is being destroyed by Barack Obama, that this is a purposeful plan to create a two-class society, the super rich and the poor, and everyone in between is expendable because they can't be reliably counted on to vote for a Democratic candidate. Democrats really count on the poor and the unions, and they count on the super rich to give them their money, their funding, the corrupt super rich who love crony capitalism, and Obama loves them, and in return gives them stimulus, bailouts, green energy, billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money wasted on the super rich. And in between is the middle class and small business, and he is just slaughtering them, destroying them, literally, figuratively murdering the middle class. And here this study comes out this morning proving my contention that the middle class of America, the American dream, is over. 27th in the world, that's the best America can do. Our middle class in equality of life, 27th in the world, and it's no surprise. Whether it's Obamacare, whether it's immigration reform, whether it's taxes, we are getting murdered. If you're in the middle class or you are upper middle class or you are a small business owner, we are just getting murdered, hammered, and you just can't live the American dream that my dad lived. Even though he was a blue-collar butcher, he lived a pretty good life because he didn't pay the kind of taxes we do now and he didn't have the kind of cheap labor that this new immigration bill is going to create. And so, what you had is a decent life for middle-class people. No more.
Hey, and I want to point something out. We've had extensive discussions, you and I, about this, and, we're real similar, you and I, both Westchesterites, former Westchesterites, and we both live in what I would call Obama refuge states. Those are states that are low-tax states that people are fleeing high-tax states to ameliorate the effects of the Obama tax policies. And Florida, they're building like crazy down here, Wayne, and not necessarily single-family houses, but you're looking at multifamily housing being erected all over the place here in Palm Beach County. Broward County, they're starting to build. You're seeing hedge funds moving out of New York, but stealthily moving out of New York out of Connecticut, out of New Jersey. Right now they're setting up back offices, and this is the effect of people fleeing the effects of Obama, right? It is the Obama Survival Guide in action.
Right. Well, my book, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, recommends moving to Texas, Florida, or Nevada as the three states that I feel are the best states to live in America today. And there's a lot of states I'd recommend, but those are the top three because, it's important in life to kind of have fun. To be honest with you, you can't have fun in Alaska. Alaska's a zero-tax state. Who would want to live there, right? Yeah. And you think of like the Idahos and the Wyomings. They're beautiful states. It's gorgeous. I've visited Jackson Hole, Wyoming many times, but would you really want to live there? You're isolated, and it's freezing all winter. But when you think of a low-tax or a no-tax state that's fun, I think of the beaches of Florida. I think of the casinos and the fun and the beautiful women of Las Vegas. And I think of course, Texas, which is becoming by far, I think, the best state in America to choose, the healthiest business climate. So those are the three I think of as fun. I wouldn't mind living in Dallas. I wouldn't mind living in Las Vegas, where I do live, and I wouldn't mind living in Palm Beach County. But, if you want no taxes and a fun life, that's where you aim. And Las Vegas, as bad as the economy is, let me tell you, there's some big things going on here, just like you mentioned in Palm Beach County. We've got a real renaissance with big casinos. A couple of them have been bought, and they're knocking them down, or they're just ripping them from the inside out, and they're going to build beautiful new casinos and create thousands of new jobs. And so, there are people around the world making investment decisions who in their right mind would choose to put their money into California or New York. They're putting it into Florida and Nevada and Texas. That's what makes sense. That's where the jobs will be in the future. And our jobs picture, by the way, brightening here in Las Vegas, Nevada as well. I always predicted that our no-tax state would be the first one out of the recession, even though we were the first ones in because tourism got hit so hard and construction got hit so hard. I said Nevada would be the first one out because California, anyone with money has got to be thinking about moving out and moving into Nevada, and that's exactly what's happening. We're actually... the homes are selling like hotcakes here, and the prices are way up because people are leaving California because of the taxes. And obviously, this is the best alternative for most California people. You're just moving a few hours away. You can still go back to L.A. whenever you want on business, but you get to live in a beautiful state, in a beautiful luxury high-rise, and it's basically paid for free. You can buy $1 million high-rise, a mansion in the sky in Las Vegas, and that entire $1 million is paid for by the taxes that you will not pay over the next 10 years, by living in Nevada versus California. So your mansion is basically free and paid for by the state of Nevada. Who wouldn't take that opportunity? So those are, that's just one of the suggestions I offered in the Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. Get the heck out of high-tax states like New York and California and Massachusetts and Illinois and race to states like Florida, Nevada, and Texas.
Hey, and while we're on this topic, there's the D word that we didn't really talk about, but it really falls in line with it, and that is Detroit filed for bankruptcy. I know you were about as shocked by it as I was, but there they are. They went bankrupt.
You said the D word, Kerry, I thought you meant depression, because I think we're in a Great Depression in general,
course.
But Detroit is symbolic of that Great Depression.
Exactly. Exactly.
And here's the thing the average person doesn't get. My book was written way in advance of Detroit declaring bankruptcy. I mean, there was no hint officially that Detroit would actually have to declare bankruptcy. Most experts I spoke to when I was writing this book back in November and December and January, they basically, if you looked in the newspaper, they said, no, Detroit doesn't have to go bankrupt. There's ways around this. Well, my book is built around the central chapter is about the future of America, Detroit, because Detroit's been run with Obama's policies for almost 60 years. There hasn't been a Republican in charge in well over half a century. And with nothing but Democrats able to do whatever they want, getting their 100% way on every single economic policy, and using Obama's theories, the city is completely, utterly bankrupt. And probably you could call it the worst tragedy in the history of America based on the size of the city and the kind of damage that's been done and the the amount of vacant buildings. I mean, just an absolute tragic American story, and in my book I call it a third world country in the middle of the United States, Detroit. It's like living in Baghdad or Kabul. That's how bad Detroit is, and it's all caused by Democratic policies, by encouraging women to be single mothers, by encouraging welfare and food stamps, and almost 50% of the adults are functionally illiterate. with Democrats in charge of not only the city but the school system. So good luck. That shows you where unions get you. City unions, teachers unions, you name it, auto unions, they've all together destroyed the once great city of Detroit.
Hey, you know what they're saying on Facebook? Said if Barack Obama had a city, it would be Detroit.
Yeah. Right, correct. If he had a son, it's Trayvon Martin, he said, and if he had a city, it's Detroit, and if he had a country, it's Cuba. Exactly. Yeah. That was a line that I used a little while ago, about a couple days ago.
Yeah, isn't that great?
No question. It's true. I mean, listen, up until now, the examples I used in my book were three things: Europe, Detroit, and California. Those are the three examples of what happens when you put Democrats in control. And people don't know it yet, but California is as bankrupt with as bad a future as Detroit. California thinks everything's fine because they did this massive increase in taxes. And not only that, speaking of something that's unconstitutional, I can't believe nobody takes this to the Supreme Court, Kerry. They raised taxes in November in the election, but they made it retroactive till January. How can you do that to people? Nobody planned for that. Suddenly you owe an extra $10,000 or $20,000 that no one told you about because it only got approved in November, but it counts.
That's the way
January.
They do things. That's
why California isn't completely bankrupt. They actually think they have a surplus. Well, yeah. If you were able to grab everybody's money and steal it from them, of course you have a surplus. But the question is, will it make all those people move out of your state? And when they move out in the next 5 years, when many, many, many millions of rich people move out and upper middle class small business owners move out, there won't be anyone left to pay the bills. What California did is a joke. It looks good on paper today, but it's going to be the biggest disaster ever passed in the history of America, that tax increase that brings taxes to 13.3%. State income tax before you've paid your federal is such a joke, Kerry, that I believe at least 2 or 3 million people will move out, all of whom have money and assets. They'll all move to Texas, Florida, and Nevada for the most part, and those states will thrive, and California in 5 years will be so utterly bankrupt you will think it's Detroit in a state.
Hey, and it's the same thing in New York. Cuomo did almost the same identical thing. He raised taxes on the rich. Isn't that a wonderful thing? Everybody's happy. We did a wonderful thing and saved the state of New York. He doubled it's just absurd. Hey, I'm not there anymore. And, you made your bed, New York. Go lie in it. And, I don't care. But, my kids are there. One day they'll be paying the tax when they're successful. And, this is the kind of thing that's short-sighted and leads to the ultimate failure of the state and of the country. Unfortunately, that's what it really comes down to, Wayne. It's the country that's failing. And I want to talk more about this when we come back after our sponsor break. And it's Kerry Lutz on the Financial Survival Network, 1230 WBZT.
Hi, it's Kerry Lutz. I recently decided to move my retirement account into physical precious metals to hedge against the coming times. If you want to move an existing retirement account into physical precious metals that you can hold in your hand, tax-free, there's no company that can do it more quickly and efficiently than Regal Assets. It took them just 24 hours to open my new IRA account, and all I had to do was fill out one simple form. The best part is that Regal Assets does all the work for you. They cover the setup and administrative costs for 2013. If you're interested in making the same move I did, call 855-678-6620, 855-678-6620. That's 855-678-6620, or visit them at regalassets.com. You'll be glad you did, and tell them Kerry sent you.
We are back. We are with Wayne Allyn Root, and he's telling you how to survive. He's written a book on the ultimate Obama survival guide. And Wayne, there's so many tips in there. You've gotten them from masters who've survived a lot of administrations before Obama, but this is the most destructive administration in the history of the U.S. government. I mean, right? And there's never been anyone more hostile to people who want to improve their lives, to people that want to really build wealth, and to those of you that really want to leave something to your children and and make a difference in the world, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, the central chapter of my book, as we discussed before the ad break, was Detroit. But I'll say the second central chapter to Detroit is the chapter called The Zombie Economy. And it really gives you facts, not conjecture, facts. Liberals don't like facts. Facts on how bad this economy really is and how we've all been lied to by this government and by the media. Things are the worst they've been, maybe not only since 1929, maybe even including the Great Depression that started in 1929. I believe we're headed for a disaster of epic proportions that will be bigger than the Great Depression. And the reason why is, Kerry, when the Great Depression started, America was in great financial shape. We didn't have such things as welfare and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid, food stamps. They didn't exist in 1929. There were no obligations like that. And there were no illegal immigrants, or at least there were very few. There weren't millions and millions of people with mouths to feed who all expected food stamps and aid to dependent children and free schooling and free medical, and the worst one of all, earned income tax credits. You pay nothing in taxes, but you think you deserve back a welfare check for $4,000. None of that existed in 1929. There was no Obamacare in 1929. No one expected free health care for life, and there weren't 22 million government employees who all expected to retire on $100,000 a year. And there wasn't $100 trillion in debt and unfunded liabilities in 1929. So when you realize that that's the real structure of America today, and we're headed into a Great Depression in very different shape than we were in good shape in 1929, I think you have the makings of a worldwide catastrophe led by America. I think we are Greece, except 1,000 times bigger. And when we fall, the entire world will fall and head into the worst depression, economic depression, the world has ever known or seen. I hate to be negative, but boy, it doesn't get more negative than that assessment. But that's what we're headed for, and it doesn't help to hide your head in the sand. You got to know about it. And my new book, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, is a national bestseller because, one, I explain it's coming. Two, I explain how and why it's coming. And three, I give you great advice on how you can avoid it. Even if the world's in trouble, it doesn't mean you have to be in trouble. So I think I go a long way to helping the average person survive and thrive and profit and prosper, even while things are going downhill pretty fast. But there's no one, I think, that can debate who's saying my general contention that we are in a world of trouble.
Yeah, and what's really disturbing here, Wayne, is that far too few people understand this and will open their minds to the fact that we're heading into the Greater Depression, as Doug Casey, Doug calls it. I mean, he's been calling it this for 5 years already. The evidence is out there, the 50 million people on food stamps, all the people on Medicare, Medicaid, and the zillion programs, all the government workers, the fact that the government collectively, city, state, local, federal, more than 50% of the economy. And this is global too, Wayne. Back in the 20s, collectively the government, not just in the U.S., but around the world, was a much smaller component of the global economy. And now it's a huge, huge part of it. And, this is a global collapse of government that's going to take place, not just in the U.S., but all over the place. Europe, in Asia as well, the vaunted Chinese miracle. Everywhere you go, government is going to fail, and nobody out there, except you and me and the good people at Freedom Fest, a very small minority of the world, is prepared for this, Wayne. How do we get the word out?
Well, I'm trying my best to get the word out. It must be working because liberals sure hate me like no one they've ever hated. I don't know if you've noticed, Kerry, but Rachel Maddow did a 15-minute rant 2 weeks ago on her TV show on MSNBC. A 15-minute rant about one person, Wayne Allyn Root. I didn't even think I was on her radar screen. So, that was, shock number one. And, of course, Piers Morgan had me on a show, and he tried to discredit me. And John Stewart had me on the Daily Show and tried to discredit me. And Mother Jones Magazine came out with a hit piece a month ago saying Wayne Root's been attacked by the IRS, and he thinks he's got the key to the whole Obama IRS scandal, that they personally picked him out. Well, they picked him out because he deserved it. He's probably a tax cheat. That's what they said in Mother Jones Magazine. It's incredible. So, I've been under such attack, withering attack, from the leftist liberal media, the Obama defenders of the world, that, it's pretty obvious I'm striking a chord with people. People like what I have to say. My book didn't know about the IRS scandal, yet almost the whole book, Kerry, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, almost every chapter has some mention of Obama using the IRS to try and destroy and bury small business. So obviously, to me, it was always the centerpiece. I knew there was a massive IRS attack going on. I didn't need to have the scandal break into the public to know it. I was living it. They were after me for 3 years. I was never in trouble with the IRS in my life. And all of a sudden, I've become an outspoken critic of the president, and I find myself under withering, vicious IRS assault. There's no coincidences in life. And when I beat the attack and won 100% victory in tax court, 5 days later, new IRS audit. My lawyer said it's never happened, to their knowledge, in the history of the United States of America. They said, my God, you are absolutely on the president's enemies list. So I knew I'm not special, Kerry. There must be critics all over this country under IRS attack. And if I have 50 friends who wrote big checks to Mitt Romney, 40 of them were under IRS audit within 60 days. Do you really believe that's a coincidence, or this is a concerted attack, a racketeering attempt by the mafia? The Gambino crime family is nice compared to Obama. The Obama crime family was set out to destroy and bankrupt and bleed dry anyone who's their critic and anyone who writes checks to Mitt Romney or the Republican Party. And I called it a year ago in the press, and people probably thought I was stark raving mad, and I'm not so mad anymore, am I? I'm pretty smart. This has been going on. It's a concerted attack. It's racketeering. We should use RICO to prosecute every one of the politicians involved and every one of the IRS agents involved. They should all lose their life savings. It should be a RICO attempt. That's what it should be. Just like Giuliani invented that term to go after drug dealers and the mafia, it should be used to go after the government that is basically using the same tactics as the mafia. Chicago thug, Al Capone mafia tactics by the Obama administration. So I think the left is scared to death that I'm actually right and that I've got the answers to what's going on, and they want to try and discredit me, but they're failing. And the more they attack me, the better the book does. So good. God bless them. The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide. Keep attacking, Rachel Maddow.
Amazing. And you nailed it. And, hey, this is truly a case where the enemy of my enemy is my friend, but you were my friend long before you were their enemy. And, the fact is that this is the biggest case for limited government ever that could be made. This is why we need limited government, so these abuses can't be made. The less the government has to do, the less potential for mayhem, right?
Hey, and by the way, Kerry, that's one of the points I made in my book. Living in Nevada, forget about the fact you pay no state income tax. That's the minor benefit. What I said was the real benefit is if you have no IRS, or in this case, a state version of the IRS, that means there's nobody to audit you or bother you. So it's not just the money you don't pay, it's the hours and the expense of the accountants you don't pay and the tax lawyers you don't pay. And it's the peace of mind when you go to sleep at night. There's nobody to check if you paid your taxes because there are no taxes due, folks. So living in Nevada means you sleep better than when you sleep in California, where the tax authority makes the IRS look friendly. They're like the Gestapo. So in the end, moving to Nevada was the best thing I ever did. So can you imagine how great this world would be if we could live in America, forget the state you live in, and there were no income taxes and no IRS? How wonderful would life be if you just ran it like Florida and Nevada and Texas run their states, which is you pay property taxes and you pay sales tax on what you spend, but you never pay income taxes again. Therefore, there's no IRS and there's no one to bother you, audit you. You don't need an accountant. You save millions over time in taxes and accounting fees. That's exactly what I want for America, and that's why I wrote The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide.
It makes me want to sing that Louis Armstrong song, What a Wonderful World, huh?
What a wonderful world. There you go.
Hey, so the name of the book again, obviously it's available all over the place, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any place where you can buy an ebook, right? You can get it.
That's it. The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, and Amazon, and of course any bookstore. It's available at Costco and Sam's Club and Books A Million and Barnes & Noble. So The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide was a labor of love, and now I'm on to the next book. I just got my contract today for my next book. I don't want to discuss it yet, but I'm ready to write the next one. And all I could tell you is the middle class is under attack, and I'm trying to be one of the leaders and fierce defenders of the middle class and small business in this country. Thank you for having me on, Kerry.
And your site is rootforamerica.com, right?
Right, rootforamerica.com. Thank you for having me on and giving me the platform to defend small business and defend myself against the Obama administration that's so angry at someone for telling the truth. Thank you, Kerry.
All right, Wayne. Always a pleasure. We'll talk with you again soon. Be well.
God bless. Thank you.
Hey, if you're a coffee connoisseur like me, you need to try an amazing new roaster out of L.A., Tonks Coffee. These guys are fanatical about delivering the best beans in the world. They source directly from the growers, roast it, and ship it to you within 24 hours, so it's the most fresh coffee you've ever tasted. Every 2 weeks, you get a new batch of incredible beans roasted to perfection. If you're hitting a cafe most mornings, this is a much better and more economical way to get great coffee. Tonks is by subscription only, and they're offering you a free sample. Use the URL tonks.org/liberty. That's TONX.org/liberty. Get some for yourself or send it to someone you know who appreciates the finer things. Tonks.org/liberty. Again, TONX.org/liberty.
The Financial Survival Network, helping you to survive and thrive in the new economy. Get our complimentary newsletter at financialsurvivalnetwork.com. This is the Financial Survival Network.